This time on Character Creation Showdown, two opposing players race to build a better D&D 5e character based solely on the roll of the dice. These dice rolls will determine the foundation of their builds, but from there, it's all up to the players. After their builds are completed, they will be reviewed and scored to determine who is the ultimate character creator. You will be a Support Goliath Druid that can multi-class into the classes of Artificer, Monk, and/or Fighter. You will decide your restriction for your opponent.
I made you do only non-concentration spells.
I made you do only concentration spells.
Based on this criteria, you have the next 30 minutes to build a level 8 character. Good luck. For the role of support, they must have the ability to buff their allies through means including, but not limited to, inspiration or increasing their allies' armor class, as well as have the ability to debuff their enemies through means including, but not limited to, bane, cutting words, or silvery barbs. They must have the ability to manipulate the environment around them through means including, but not limited to, physically altering the area and/or dictating movement in the encounter. The player will receive 1 point for the criteria that they did better at than the other player. The player with the most points after reviewing their build wins, so make sure to watch to the end to see whose build comes out on top.
I definitely think in terms of support, the spellcasting classes we got, the Druid and the Artificer, are definitely going to be better. I don't think the Martial classes, I mean maybe there's some fighter classes that offer a little bit, but I don't think the Monk and Fighter are going to offer too much in terms of support. I'm not incredibly familiar with Druid, so I'm kind of reading through those subclasses now, and then definitely what feat to choose as well. Or feats, depending on how the level spread I decide to take. Not really sure where to go there.
I have my two classes picked out. Still kind of working on some of the particulars in the class features, but I think I have that down. I'm still deciding on feat. That's kind of be the hardest part, I think. Okay, so I went for Jonathan only being able to cast concentration spells, because that means he can only cast one spell, and then he has to depend on class features. So I'm hoping maybe it made him think a little more. I know it probably wasn't the conventional pick, but I'm hoping my chances are good.
I decided a lot more things. I decided my level spread and my subclasses. Still figuring out what feats and some other options to take. Pretty decent, I think. I have a good chance. Debuffing is kind of hard, but I do think I have a decent chance of winning control and buffing.
Now that our players have completed their builds, let's see what they have come up with.
So for my classes, I did Druid 5 and Artificer 3, and for the subclasses, I chose Circle of the Shepherd and Artificer Artillerist. And then directly onto our criteria here, for my buffing options, I have the Eldritch Cannon Protector from Artificer Artillerist, and also from Artificer I have infusions that can buff my allies. I can give them an enhanced weapon or armor. And then I also picked the Spell Rot Tattoo. I could put this on myself or one of my allies, and I can give them access to any first level spell. With the restriction here, it would just be concentration spells. And then from Shepherd Druid, I get the Spirit Totem. All three of the different totems are good here. They give advantage on different checks or attacks, and then one of them also gives temporary hit points as well. And then all the buffing spells I have are Guidance, Resistance, Enhance Ability, Pass Without Trace, and Protection from Energy. And then as far as debuffs go, I have two spells there, Bane and Fairy Fire. And then once again, the Spell Rot Tattoo Infusion could also be a debuff spell. And then for control options here, the Eldritch Cannon Force Ballista can push a creature back 5 feet. And then again, the Spell Rot Tattoo Infusion could also be a control spell. And another thing to add to that is that one of your martial allies could cast it as well, giving them something to concentrate on. And then in terms of control spells, I have Entangle, Fog Cloud, Hold Person, and Spike Growth. And lastly for control, the Wild Shape feature from Druid can be used to control, as you can transform into a creature that would be good at grappling or shoving, and there's also some creatures that can inflict conditions like paralysis, restrained, or prone. So in terms of tactics, the first round I would want to set up and then fire the protector cannon while the party is still close together to give everybody temporary hit points. And then on round 2 I would cast whatever concentration spell I have that I think would be best for the scenario. And then on round 3 I would likely wild shape, and on rounds after that I would use the wild shape to try and control the battlefield.
So for my class and level spread, I decided to go with level 5 Druid and level 3 Fighter. Subclasses were Circle the Shepherd Druid and Battlemaster Fighter. For my main buffs, I decided to use my Wild Shape as a optional feature to turn it into a Find Familiar, which has to be a Fey. So that would be commanding your familiar to give one person advantage in that way. My other one is the bonus action off of Circle the Shepherd Druid. You have the Hawk Totem, Bear Totem, and Unicorn Totem. They all provide separate buffs. For my fighter buffs, I went with the bait and switch fighting style to increase your allies' AC when you switch places with them. It's a D8 at this level. For my other maneuver, I took Commander's Strike. When you take the attack action, you can forgo one attack, and your bonus action to command one of your allies to attack. So for my 2 buffing spells, I decided to take Long Strider to increase movement speed and Lesser Restoration to help your allies in case they do get debuffed. For my feat, I decided to go with Gift to the Metallic Dragon. It is a reaction to increase someone's AC near you equal to your proficiency bonus. So my main forms of debuffing is my other Battlemaster maneuver, which is the Goading Attack, which if they fail Wisdom saving throw, then they have disadvantage attacking all the creatures besides you, which can be pretty good and impactful. And then my other debuff comes from my fighting style through Fighter, which is Interception to reduce an ally's damage taken as a reaction by 1d10 plus your proficiency bonus. For control spells, I ended up going with Plant Growth, which is pretty much just a better difficult terrain. Erupting Earth, which if they fail Dexterity saving throw, then they are knocked prone, and then that creates difficult terrain underneath them. Earth Tremor is the same, but it's a targeted attack at one person. The Charm Person spell, make them friendly to you, and then the Snare spell as a restraint. For my tactics, I'm going to want to direct my familiar to assist one of my allies as its action. Ideally, if the enemies are grouped up, you use Plant Growth or Erupting Earth to control them that way. Then you bonus action, create a specific totem around you, which will most likely help buff your allies in the best way. And then Action Surge and go up and Goading Attack while also bait and switching with one of your allies.
After reviewing both of their builds, the first point goes to Jonathan for having more and better quality buffs such as the Eldritch Cannon Protector feature and his Artificer infusions. Jonathan takes the second point as his character has the ability to cast Bane and Fairy Fire. The final point goes to Lucas for having more spells that manipulate the environment. Jonathan having the Spell Rot Tattoo magic item is accounted for in all of these criterias as it has the ability to be a buff, debuff, or control. Counting up all the points, this means that Jonathan wins the challenge for this episode. Thanks for watching. Comment down below on whose build you thought was better. If the video is live, you can click here to watch what our players build next.